I still remember that day clearly. It wasn't an ordinary day. It was the day that changed the direction of my life forever. I was in London, one of the busiest cities in Europe. The streets were bright, full of people, laughter, noise, but inside me, everything felt broken. I had come here with a dream, a new beginning, a better future. But reality was nothing like I expected. The beginning. It all started when I arrived in the UK for the first time. I truly believed this place was only about opportunity. I thought life would become easier the moment I landed. But the second I stepped into the cold London air, I realized something. Life here is beautiful, but it isn't easy. Every face was rushing somewhere. Everyone was fighting their own battles. And me? I was completely alone. That first night, I was staying in a tiny rented room, so small that if I stretched my arms, I could touch both walls. Outside, it was raining, and all I had was silence and my thoughts. I told myself, this is what I wanted. But my heart whispered back, is it really? Dad, call home. The next morning, I called my family. My mother answered, my son, are you okay? I forced a smile into my voice. Yes, Mom. I'm fine. Everything is good. But the moment the call ended, I broke down because I wasn't fine. I was just trying to stay strong. The first shock days passed. I searched for work everywhere. Everywhere I went, the answer was the same. Sorry, we'll let you know. But that let you know never came. I walked through London streets, watching people move quickly past me, and I kept asking myself, do I even belong here? The night, everything changed. Then, one night, I was coming back from an underground station. It was freezing. The cold air felt like it was cutting straight through my skin. I checked my pocket, only a few coins. And rent was due the next day. I stopped in the middle of the street, and for the first time, I admitted it to myself. I've lost. Ote. That moment, an elderly man approached me. He held a cup of coffee. He looked at me and asked gently, you okay, son? I quickly replied, yes, I'm fine. But he smiled slightly and said, no, you're not. I froze. This stranger somehow saw through me. The stranger on the bench. He sat down beside me on a bench and said, London tests everyone, but it also builds legends. I whispered, I don't think I can survive here. He responded immediately, you will if you stop fighting alone. Those words went straight into my chest. His name was George. He introduced himself. My name is George. I was about to tell him mine, but I hesitated. Even saying my name felt difficult. It was like I had lost my identity. George looked at me and asked, first year in London. I nodded. He chuckled softly. London eats newcomers first. Then added, but then it teaches them how to rise. I asked him. He took a deep breath. I came here with nothing. No friends. I sat right here at this same station. Then he said something I wasn't prepared for. I trembled. He looked down. Forever. This was life and death. George said, just like I'm sitting beside you, sometimes God doesn't send miracles. Tears filled my eyes. George reached into his pocket and handed me a small card. Community Help Center, East London, 9 a.m. Be there. Why? Because you're not broken. For the first time in weeks. Hope. The next Morning. I woke up early. Cold wind hit my face as I held that card in my hand. Or maybe I arrived at the center. Just a simple door and voices inside. Then stepped in. I was shocked. Africa.com. Every face carried a story. But suddenly I realized someone spoke to me. Hi, welcome. I nodded. Her voice was gentle. You can rebuild. That word felt new. She handed me a warm coffee. Then she asked, this time clearly. And she replied, outside. I was invisible. I mattered. Suddenly, the door opened. He smiled. London builds legends. You're here? I volunteer here. This place saved me. A chill ran through me. It was destiny, because what happened next? Night, a moment in London. His secret. You said you were once like me. How? 30 years ago, no home, and one night. My heart sank. I was going to end it. What? I was ready to disappear. This wasn't a casual conversation. A powerful truth. That night, someone sat beside me. Then he whispered, he sends people the opportunity. It read, tomorrow morning. I asked. He answered, you're just lost. I felt something. The place that changed my life. London was still wet from the rain. Maybe it was my last chance. My first real beginning. It wasn't fancy. I hesitated. Inside, people from everywhere were sitting together. Syria, Poland. I thought I was alone. The world is full of people fighting silent battles. A woman approached with a warm smile. First time here. I'm just trying to survive. You don't have to just survive. Rebuild. The first time I felt seen, my hands were shaking. What's your name? I said it, confidently. It's good to have you here. But here, George's truth. And George walked in. I told you. I stared at him. He laughed, then quietly added, now I help save others. This wasn't coincidence. And this was only the beginning, was something I could never forget. A secret that would change everything again. That same evening, I walked back through London differently for the first time. The city didn't feel like an enemy. It felt like a place where I might belong. The lights were still the same. The streets were still crowded. But inside me, something had shifted. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I had taken my first breath again. The center became my second home. Over the next few days, I kept going back to that community center. It wasn't just a building. It was warmth. It was voices. It was people who understood silence. People who had lost everything and were still standing. George was always there, quiet, calm, steady. Sometimes he didn't even speak much. His presence alone was enough. A strange conversation. One evening, after everyone had left, George asked me, do you know why London feels so heavy? He shrugged. Because it's hard. He shook his head. No, it's because London doesn't just test your strength. It tests your soul. I didn't know what to say. Then he looked at me carefully, and not everyone passes that warning. His words stayed with me. That night, I was heading back home alone. The streets were emptier than usual. The wind was sharp. I pulled my jacket tighter as I walked past a narrow alley near the station. I heard something, a voice, low, trembling, almost like someone crying. I slowed down. My heart started beating faster. London was full of sounds. But this sound was different. It wasn't normal. The shadow in the alley. I looked into the alley. Otite. First, I saw nothing. Just darkness. Then, suddenly, I noticed movement. A figure sitting on the ground, curled up, shaking. I hesitated. Every instinct told me, keep walking. Keep walking. Don't get involved. But something inside me couldn't. I stepped closer. Hello. Are you okay? No answer. Just silence. Then a whisper. Please. E. Froze. The girl. Dead girl. She slowly lifted her face. It was a young woman, maybe in her early 20s. Her eyes were red, her hands were trembling, and she looked terrified. I asked again, what happened? She swallowed hard and said, they took my bag, my phone. I don't know where to go. Her voice cracked. I'm not from here. Those words hit me like lightning. Not from here, just like me. The moment I understood destiny, I crouched down slowly. It's okay. You're not alone. But as I said those words, I realized something shocking. Just days ago, that was me. Alone, broken. Sitting in the cold, and George had found me. No, life was putting someone else in my path. I helped her stand. I offered my hand. She hesitated, then held it tightly, like she was holding on to life itself. We walked out of the alley together. I guided her toward the main street lights. E. Ask, what's your name? She whispered, Hannah. I nodded. Hannah. I know a safe place. Back to the center. I brought her to the community center, even though it was late. George was still there, locking the doors when he saw us. His eyes widened. Then he looked at me, almost as if he already knew. He calmly opened the door again and said softly, you found your first soul to save. The truth, George told me, inside, while Hannah drank water quietly. George sat beside me. Then, he whispered, this is how it begins. I frowned. What begins? He looked straight into my eyes. The city didn't break you. It prepared you. My breath stopped. Then he said something I will never forget. Not everyone comes to London to become successful. Some come here to become someone else entirely. And then George leaned closer. His voice dropped. There is something about this city. Something people don't talk about. He swallowed. What? He paused. Then said, London hides people. Not just physically, but spiritually. I felt chills all over my body. Then George whispered, and you are closer to that truth than you realize. That night ended with one question. When I finally returned home, I couldn't sleep because my life was no longer about me alone. I kept thinking, was this coincidence? Or was London writing a bigger story? And deep down, I knew part 5 would not be normal, because the next thing I was about to discover was something that would change everything again. Forever! The hospital room was silent. Only the soft beeping of machines filled the air. George lay there, weak, bruised, but somehow still carrying that calm peace in his eyes. I sat beside him, holding his hand. My mind was spinning. That Ellie, that violence, that reality of London I never wanted to see. It wasn't just a nightmare. It was the truth. And George had stepped into it without fear. For someone the world had forgotten, just like he once had been forgotten. The next morning, when the sun rose, London looked normal again. People rushed to work. Buses moved. Coffee shops opened. The city continued as if nothing had happened. But for me, everything had changed. I returned to the community center later that day. The same door, the same room, the same warmth, but I wasn't the same person anymore. The woman at the desk smiled gently. "How is George?" I hesitated. "He's holding on." She nodded quietly. "That's who he is. He always holds on." George's words stayed with me. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing his voice. Someone has to stand up. Someone has to show light in the dark. I realized something painful. London didn't just test people with cold weather or loneliness. It tested them with despair, with darkness, with moments where you either walk away or you become the reason someone survives. 1 week later, George recovered slowly. His body was weak, but his spirit was unshaken. When I visited him again, he smiled. "You're still here," I replied. "I told you. I promised." He looked at me carefully. "Then don't waste this second chance." I swallowed hard. "What do I do now?" George whispered. "Become what you needed when you first arrived. The moment everything came full circle." A few days after George returned home, I stayed at the center late one evening. I was cleaning chairs, putting away supplies. Then the door opened. A young man stepped in, wet hair, shaking hands, tired eyes. He looked exactly like me months ago. He spoke quietly. "Hi. I don't know why I came here. I feel lost." My heart stopped for a moment because suddenly he understood. This was the moment. I walked over and I smiled. "And sit down." I handed him a warm cup of coffee and asked softly, "What's your name?" His voice trembled as he answered, and then I said the same words someone once said to me. "It's good to have you here." His eyes filled with tears. For the first time, he felt seen. That night, I realized the truth. George was right. Sometimes God doesn't send miracles. He sends people. And in that moment, I wasn't just surviving in London anymore. I was becoming something else. I was rebuilding. Not just myself, but others too. The ending, or the beginning. London didn't give me an easy life. It gave me cold nights, loneliness, pain, and moments that nearly broke me. But it also gave me George. It gave me purpose. It showed me that the darkest streets can still contain light. And as I stood outside the center that night, looking up at the London sky, I whispered to myself, I came here chasing a dream, but I found something greater. I found my reason. Because London didn't break me. London rebuilt